Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mindshifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeannie. Michael and Jeannie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce.
To the brightness within you, and the truth that is rooted within me.
Well, good afternoon, and happy Memorial Day to all and everyone out there. This is Memorial Day number 366, I believe, or 67, since we had a leap year. This is Dr. Tim Hayes. I'm a psychologist in Crystal Lake, and I'm talking for, and hopefully waiting for, Dr. Michael Ryce and Jeannie. And we're here to help celebrate Memorial Day in a way that makes sense for ending war on planet Earth. We're here to open a discussion about how we can use the ancient Aramaic tool of forgiveness to remove everything from our systems, our mind-body energy systems, which creates war. So, well, and here's hoping that we're reconnected. Again, this is Tim Hayes. I'm a psychologist in Crystal Lake, Illinois, and we're here on the Mindshifters radio program waiting for Dr. Michael Ryce, Dr. Jeannie Ryce to call in and hopefully open the switchboard so that we can have callers. But in the meantime, we're here to discuss what it takes to remove everything from our minds, from our body's energy system, which can contribute to the hostility and fear that creates war on planet Earth. And here in America, it's Memorial Day, where we are honoring the people who have had to die in war, who've been injured in war, and some would say most horribly for those who have been forced to take another life in war and injure and maim others in war. How do you do that? Well, you do that with an ancient tool, an ancient Aramaic tool of forgiveness. And forgiveness in this ancient tool has nothing to do with letting somebody else off the hook for doing something that has irritated you or upset you. Forgiveness with this ancient Aramaic tool is a way to go inside your mind-body energy system and remove a false reality that you have created through your interactions with the outside world and probably in line with what you've inherited from your parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents. And by using this tool, removing that false reality. The question often comes up, how can you tell it's a false reality? The answer is, it's any reality that I create that leads me to feel any form of hostility or fear. If I have hostility or fear, I know instantly my mind's hallucinating, using corrupt data to formulate a reality and generating hostility or fear. which doesn't belong in my energy system. What does belong in my energy system? The energy of creation, the energy of God, the energy of love. We're told by the ancient scriptures that God is love, God is all there is, and that we are made in the image and likeness of God. And to bring it more clearly into focus, for any of us who have ever held a newborn child, what we're feeling, what we're sensing, what we feel in communion with that infant is that energy of love before the world and the culture and society has put its fingerprints and thumbprints on it. That beautiful, innocent, glowing, angelic, pure, creative, infinite potential energy is what we're made of. Each of us started that way. And each of us still has that in us as our source. And the job of our job using these tools, the ancient Aramaic tool of forgiveness and other tools that have been created to help remove anything from our system that is less than love, moves us into that awareness of our source of love. We don't have to create love. We don't have to search for it. We can't give it. It's what we're made of. And by removing anything that's less than love, we come into contact with that. Well, so I'm trying to check the internet to see if there's anything online and to see if there's any way to hear whether or not we have a show going. And so far, I don't have a connection, so I'm hoping that this is getting out there and that any minute now, Dr. Ryce and Jeannie will tune in and let us know that they're here and that they're hearing this. They're out there on a Caribbean island getting some well-deserved rest. And I think one of the things we were going to try and do, now that I'm sure it's going out over the internet, we were going to have Jeannie, who was supposed to be running the switchboard, just put anybody through. If you have your hand raised, if you'd like to ask a question, make a comment about a past show, the call-in number is 646-200-4169. 646-200-4169. And if you call in, and if Jeannie's there, she'll put you through and you can start talking and just...
Hey, Tim.
Yes.
You can hear me then. This is David.
Speak right up, David.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to let you know that I am on and I am listening, and there are several people. I'm not sure who's on the switchboard, and whoever it is, well, then they've given me the signal, so people can call in then.
Wonderful. So at 646-200-4169, you can call in. Apparently the chat room isn't open, but if you have a question or a comment, let us know. David, how are you this fine Memorial Day?
I'm doing very well, Tim. I'm sitting here with Joanne and Rick here at Heartland and celebrating this anniversary of the radio show, really. It's amazing. And as you said, 366, 67 days of being on the air. Actually, it's when we started doing this Memorial Day celebration. So we're doing well here.
Good. How many people do you have at Heartland right now?
There's four of us counting Julie. She's just going down the road. She's going to be going out of town for a little bit, and the community that's around here. I think there are some more people that we're expecting here to get ready for the intensive season. So if anyone's interested in having a full experience of absorbing and taking this information in, coming to Heartland is one of the ways to do that. So we have Joanne and Rick that are here on the work support program preparing for this intensive.
Wonderful. The intensive that you're talking about is at a beautiful retreat center in the Ozarks where people can go and get some of the best support on the planet for removing anything from their mind-body energy system which is less than love. And what kind of support is that? Well, it's the support of interested, caring people who know a process and who are working on themselves with this very process to remove anything from their mind-body energy system which is less than love. We've got a beautiful rustic setting in the Ozarks, isolated from the craziness of the culture. You've got a fabulous kitchen with mostly raw, vegetarian food, which raises the body's vitality level so that it can throw off more and more of the gunk and the garbage that we've accumulated over the years. And it's a life-changing experience to go to an intensive at Heartland. And I think the first time I went, it was probably about 8 years ago. And at that point in time, I had been doing therapy and traveling and going to different trainings and seminars for about 30 years. And the experience at Heartland was far and away the most productive of all those different trainings and retreats and meditations and techniques. For me, for what I needed to do, it was just a fabulous experience. And when you combine the power of the raw vegetarian food and the love and support of the team that's there in Heartland, and then the other intensive participants who have come from all over the United States and sometimes other countries, all for the express purpose of improving their experience in life day to day. And you add that to these powerful tools. And so I've mentioned tools several times. What are the tools? Well, the primary tool for this work that Dr. Ryce has assembled is the Reality Management Worksheet. And if you go to the website at www.whyagain.com, WHYAGAIN.com, and on the right-hand side, you'll see a link to download worksheets. When you click on that link, it opens up a web page, and the first 7 or 8 links give you everything you'll need to know to download this worksheet and print it out, read about how the worksheet process works, and better yet, audio after audio of Dr. Ryce working through a worksheet on this internet show. And the process, the undoing of the anger and fear-producing realities in the mind, it's all laid out there for you. And it's absolutely free. Go to the website. There's no requirement to, pay money, give away your email address. Just go there. Dr. Ryce and his wife have made the commitment to make this set of tools available to every mind, heart, and being on the planet, whether they can afford to pay for it or not. Now, if you like this, if you benefit from it, if there's any way you can purchase the book, he would appreciate that. He would appreciate if you could send a donation, because they aren't independently wealthy and they travel 8 to 10 months of the year giving workshops without any requirement for pay. And if you've benefited from this work the way David has, who was just on, and I've had, and so many other people who've attended the intensives, if it's changed the quality of your life for the better when you picked up these tools and applied them to your life, then we welcome the support and the donations to keep the work going and to spread even farther. The idea is that we are working with new tools like the Internet and this Internet show and Dr. Ryce and his traveling to get the word out there, not one by one, every heart, mind, and being on the planet, but to reach the point of critical mass. Yeshua was known to say that a little leavening leavens the whole loaf. And we don't think he was talking about baking. We thought he was talking about the concept of critical mass in physics, where when you reach that point,
Dr. Tiem?
Point, yes.
Hey, we made it. All right. I'm going to hand this one over to Michael. I did turn David on already. I got to the switchboard immediately. I was actually on there before you were, but I couldn't get the voice to come through on Skype. So I'm going to hand this over to Michael, and we do have David already turned on, and we do have a caller.
Well,
so hold on, and I'll just give this over to Michael.
We've already spoken to David.
Okay. All right. Well, hold on, and here's Michael.
Technology. What can I say? Hey, David.
David,
how are you, gentlemen? Awesome.
Well,
we were on before the show started, but we couldn't get connected, so we finally got connected. Jeannie, the genius, figured it out. Thank you, Jeannie, for all you do.
So does that mean the chat room is going to be live?
The chat room, I think, is live, isn't it?
It is. I'm not in it because I can't have two screens on at once.
She can't have two screens on her computer at once, but so we'll have to check back and forth. She's actually trying to use my phone to get in the chat room now, I think. Is that what you're doing, Jeannie?
Yeah.
So everybody, if you'd just be patient with us, I actually was able to hear the intro that you did, Dr. Tim, and then lost connection with you and finally got back again. So delighted to be here to see everybody. And Jeannie says we've got a caller, so
it's area code.
Talk Tim, David, how do you do?
We actually have two, but 253 is on.
Okay, area code 253, you're on the air. Let's see what your question or thought is. 25, are you with us?
We have a caller from area code 253. Can you hear us? So, Michael, you're breaking up. And you might have dropped out altogether. I don't know. But the idea we were talking about was critical mass, and the idea is if you get just enough people, it tips the balance, and pretty soon magical things happen. And we have been experiencing over the past few years more and more of what we would consider events related to critical mass. Michael held the intensives, the most recent set of intensives, and afterwards he said the level of awareness, the level of willingness to work, the level of speed with which people were getting, understanding, and applying the tools from his last few intensives far surpasses what it's been for years. And there are those of us who have been exposed to the work and seen the value of it and then just kind of used it a little bit, picked it up once in a while, put it down, not really applied it, gone back to the old conditioning. What's the old conditioning? It's the part of my mind that says, you made me angry, you hurt my feelings, you insulted me, you offended me, you made me scared. Any thought in my mind that puts the responsibility for what I'm feeling on anyone or anything else, that's a false thought. That's a false reality. If I believe at any point in time that anyone or anything is responsible for what I'm feeling, I have immediately, instantaneously created a codependent relationship with that person. And Dr. Ryce has a fabulous 2-hour lecture about codependence, which has some of the more powerful concepts for liberating us in the context of our relationships. And so if you haven't been exposed to that, that's available on the website. You can buy that 2-hour, I believe it's also an audio, but a 2-hour video. And we're here to support people who want to watch these videos and then get a group of people, if it's just 2 or 3 or 4 or 20 or 5,000 people together, and watch the videos, learn the tools, apply the tools to their daily lives, and watch the love increase. Watch your awareness of your source as love increase. So there are tools like the Reality Management Worksheet that we were talking about, available free off of the Internet. There are also 14 or 15 different videos which Dr. Ryce has available for sale, and these are videos of his lectures which cover a wide range of topics. One that most people start with is, why is this happening to me again? It's the title of his book. It's also the core worksheet process, the core tool worksheet to Reality Management Worksheet is presented in that lecture. And then another 2-hour lecture he has is Healing Through Relationships. And this, there's a 3-step process I think will transform your life faster than most anything you can find anywhere else. Watching and applying the tools that is happening to me again. Who do we have there? Somebody back on?
Well, actually, you got Michael back on, I hope.
Michael, you're back on.
Oh, good. It's a miracle. So did we get any of those other callers when they came on? I got cut off, so
Nope.
we're going to have to
Nobody else spoke up, so I've just been talking about...
3253 and 336.
Is David still with us?
Yes.
David, say hello. Hello, David. Can you hear us? Long time no hear.
I hear you. As a matter of fact, I was just taking it off of mute. For Joanne has a comment that she'd like to make.
Oh, awesome. And who?
Hello, everyone.
Introduce us to Joanne.
Yes, this is Joanne. I'm here at Heartland, and I want to, first of all, express my gratitude and appreciation to Michael and Jimmy for the opportunity and the privilege to do the support program here at Heartland. So I'm here now for a week, and I have been more diligently able to do the work on a regular basis. And a few other modules, and so the comment that I wanted to share was about an experience this morning. I started out with a worksheet that instead of taking, I don't have a set time, but, you know, the goal was to do 5, but it seemed to take me quite a long time to, because I had to journal from the first sheet that I was doing. And what happened is that I realized afterwards that there was a clearing going on that showed up to me not only mentally and emotionally, but even physically. And so that was information of the shift that was unfolding through the application of the worksheet. It was a physical explanation. And so without going into details, I just know that it's all a part of the same process, and I relate it exclusively to the clearing and releasing that was done through the worksheet. Thank you. Are you there? Am I there? I hear no sound.
Well, you were definitely there. Thank you. Is it Joanne?
Yes.
Well, thank you for that input. That's exactly the kind of thing we're looking for, real people who have applied the tools and seen a shift. And don't worry about how long it takes you to do a worksheet. When you start, most of us take quite a bit longer than it takes after 2 or 3 or 4 weeks of just putting the pen to the paper. It gets easier and faster and often more and more productive. How long have you been working with the tools?
Well, for some months now, I've been participating with a Mind Shifters group in Las Vegas, actually in Green Valley.
Wonderful.
Yes, and so I've been doing the sheets for a while. We meet on Wednesdays weekly, and it's at the Unity of Green Valley.
Wonderful. So, how often do you go to that group?
Well, the group meets weekly. I don't always get there weekly, but I do work. In fact, I have sometimes gone to the home of someone who spent different periods of time with intensive here at Heartland. That's Connie. And Connie has the DVDs and some other things, and so I have access to her. In addition to which, she also comes to the Mind Shifters group, but she has made herself available, and I've taken the opportunity to, to use her as a resource.
Wonderful. Michael and Jeannie, is that you back on?
I be here, sir. Yes. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, Joanne, we're just awesomely delighted that you've tapped into the work and that you're there at Heartland to both do your work to support Heartland in getting to the summer season and the next level of what we have to do together to take this work to every mind, heart, and being on the planet. We are awesomely blessed.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to not only the participation in that, but for whatever unfolds as a result of being that. I anticipate that being at Heartland would be like the flutter of a butterfly's wing that caused a tsunami. So I'm looking forward to that experience, to that degree of clearing here at Heartland. And based upon what happened today, I know it's already started.
Well, we look forward to you being the butterfly wings that creates a tsunami of forgiveness on planet Earth and joining that elemental force happening in the world.
Thank you.
So is David still there?
I am.
Hey, sir. We haven't heard from you for a while. Do you have anything to share?
Oh, it's a beautiful day
Welcome
here.
home.
Thank you. And it's nice to have a couple of people here that are at the level of willingness that they're at to get things ready for the intensive.
All things moving forward. I hope we can get Chef Ari to call in sometime this week. I've called him 2 or 3 times to connect with him, and I just hadn't heard back from him before we left on early Saturday morning. So we're hoping to hear from him and have him share a little more about what he's going to do for the Food Fund Forgiveness and Work program that will be July 21st.
Yep. Good.
Have you heard anything from Ari, David, recently?
I did. I spoke with him on Friday, and he was saying that he was going to call into the show. I don't know if there's a 312 number out there, but then he may be calling in today, and if not, then he said that he would be calling you to talk about the whole process of it. Sounds like I may have lost you, Michael.
Michael, come back to us. Can you hear me, David?
I can, Tim.
All right.
Yep. Must have lost him again.
Yep.
Anyone? So I don't know if there's any questions out there from anyone. Any questions from?
We're doing it a little bit differently today. We're just asking anybody if you'd like to call in. The number is 646-200-4169. And if you call in, give it a shot. Just try punching number 1 and then start talking. Because if
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Who is this?
This is Beth in North Carolina.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, David. This is Beth from the intensive.
Hi. Good to get your voice back. Wonderful. Nice to hear your voice. Are you doing your work?
I am doing my work. And
Good.
thank you so much, Dr. Tim, for your awesome introduction and continuing the show, despite Michael and Jeannie's technical difficulties. But they are on a much-deserved break.
Absolutely. So is there a question or some way we can support you or a testimonial you want to give?
Definitely need some support, and David is aware of some of my situation after having been at the intensive. I am married and actively participate in this work on a daily basis. I just found the tools in October, and I have seen so many shifts from using them. But what I'm noticing is that as I'm doing the work and being in intimate relationship with someone who doesn't use the tools, there seems to be quite a division that is growing. And I just wanted to see if you had any input on that.
Well, what's the nature of the division that's growing?
Much more conflict, much more frequent conflict. I feel like I have a different take on my reality, which is to more often own my stuff. I still know that I project and blame and all that, but being told that I am the cause of his pain is hard to hear now when I have a different viewpoint on what causes internal pain.
All right, and so what I would support you in doing is look at what do you mean, what specifically is the feeling for you when you say it's hard to hear that?
I've done worksheets on sadness, hopelessness, overwhelm. Those are probably the main feelings.
And is there a theme or is there a specific thing you've uncovered that keeps coming up when you have that sadness and that hopelessness and that overwhelm within you?
Within me. I think by nature I'm a very empathetic person, and I'm wondering if I've set myself up and my life up for a pattern of trying to, for lack of a better term, rescue or help, support people, when really only each of us can do our own work and make those own shifts. And that's only something I've really come to understand or have a relationship recently in this marriage. Because I've seen a pattern in the past where I have been in a relationship and kind of taking on more of almost a caregiver role versus a partnership role. So I'm wondering if I've attracted this into my life.
Well, if you've attracted this into your life, it is an opportunity for healing.
Right.
And so what happens with you when you try to move out of that caregiver role?
I feel like, I mean, that's where my options are. It's like, where do I go from here? I'm trying to create this space of love so I can get the best inspired action, whether that's to continue on, to leave, whatever that may be. And when I think about leaving, I have feelings of guilt that come up. Okay,
so you hadn't mentioned guilt in the worksheets that you did before when he said you're causing my negative feelings. So have you done some worksheets on guilt?
Yes.
And to the point where you no longer feel guilt when you think about leaving?
No, I feel guilt. I definitely. Those are worksheets too.
Okay. Well, say more about what your dilemma is, because it seems as though if you're still doing worksheets and you're still engaged, that you're on the right track, that you're going to start uncovering what it is within you that needs to be removed so that you can think about leaving without feeling guilt. And then, if you have the option to leave, then you actually have the option to stay. Right now, you can't really choose to stay if you feel that you're stuck. And if you leave, you'll have this horrible guilt. And if you stay, you'll have overwhelm. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
So,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, I did leave about 6 months ago, and it was pretty dramatic, and that's when I found the work. And there were a lot of shifts that occurred from me doing the work that brought us back together. But what I'm seeing is that some of those shifts are starting to backslide, and there are some situations that I'm questioning whether it's healthy to remain, even though I feel guilty.
Can I break in with a couple of thoughts here, Dr. Tim?
Hey.
Go ahead, Michael. Glad to have you back.
Yes, thank you. Beth, we're glad to be here to support you on an ongoing and continuous basis. And when you recognize that you were not in a real partnership role, but you were in a caretaker role, and that's more like, a codependent role. I'm being mom and you're being child, and I have to take care of you. And when I'm someone who has the capability to be a natural doesn't shoot someone.
You're going in and out for me, Michael.
Let me see if I can find another space to speak from.
Okay.
Let me right here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm no longer going to play mom. And what he's used to playing the role of mom, you being the caretaker, naturally he's going to say, I want my caretaker back. Or he's going to say, I'm ready to step up to the plate. And it sounds like, in part, when you first started doing this, he stepped up to the plate and started to do his own work and to take responsibility, moving out of the codependent relationship into an interdependent relationship. And to refuse to be the caretaker. I'm going to this. There's one of four things I find happens when people change.
Lost you again, Michael.
Okay, so Beth?
Yes.
Whether you've heard this from Michael before, Michael, you're breaking up so much we can't hear you. But whether you've heard this from Michael or not, he's about to talk about four things that happen.
Right.
You start to do your work. One of them is the person says, wow, that's fabulous. Show it to me. I want to change my life too. Another one is, wow, that's great. Show it to me so I can sabotage you. Another one is, I don't like the new you, and I'm going to turn up the heat until you get back into the relationship with me the way you used to, where I blame you and you blame me, and we're both going at it. We're both two raw brain stems attacking each other in the center of the room. And the last one is, they see you changing and they say, I don't like this, I'm out of here.
Right.
And the input I would have for you without knowing anything about your situation is simply that the maximum amount, there's several things I would want to say to you about this. One of them is, it's your responsibility to make sure that you're not in an abusive relationship, an abusive situation. You are not responsible for the other person's happiness. You're not responsible for their well-being. They are. When you're married, when you're in a relationship with another adult. And Guy Finley talks about this very thing, and he says one of the 8 great false responsibilities is that I'm responsible to make you happy, or I'm responsible for what happens to you if I leave.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, if I'm clear with somebody about what I will tolerate, what I feel is acceptable, and what I think is working in a healthy relationship, and I've clearly communicated that, then I'm not responsible for what they put themselves through when I leave. I don't know anything about your situation, but I frequently am counseling people in these kinds of situations, safety first. You have to make sure you stay safe, and to whatever degree is possible, you're not doing anything that's harming another. And then the next important thing I would say is, now we've cleared up the fact I'm not going to stay in an abusive relationship, and we've cleared up that if everybody's going to be safe. Now the next thing is, before I decide to leave, am I leaving from a space of love? If I'm not leaving from a space of love, then I've got more work to do on me, and it's the kind of work that's going to remove the anger and the hostility and the fear and the hurt from my energy system, which leaves me available to engage the other person in a healthy relationship. They may not be available, but it would leave me available for that. And so I know when it's time for me to move on from a relationship, when I'm feeling calm and loving and good about it, and when I'm getting triggered, I'm doing my work before I decide what action to take. Does that help?
Absolutely. That's validating, because that's what I feel like what I'm doing is as I'm getting triggered, doing the work, and the worksheets are just amazing to help me get back into a calmer space. And that's where I want to feel, with whatever action I take, that it comes from the loving space versus a decision out of fear or hostility. But it's up and down all day long.
Yeah, and
I feel good, and then I'm triggered, and I'm right back into the fear and hostility. So I guess part of maybe the hopelessness is, will I ever be in a space long enough to know what is really the highest and best decision for me?
Well, the key there is, if I'm getting triggered, I still have stuff, to remove from my system. If I'm with somebody who keeps trying to trigger me, that's, somebody who's intentionally trying to pull me back into a negative pattern, that's their issue. If I get triggered, that's still mine. Even if somebody comes at me with every intention of hooking me into anger or fear, and then I get hooked into anger or fear, that's my responsibility.
Right.
So the more I do my work and clean up the gunk, anything less than love, the more I'm able to stand in a space of love and then build my credibility with my partner, because I'm not going up and down like a yo-yo. And then when I say, this is what I can tolerate, this is how I choose to behave, this is what I think is acceptable in the relationship, after my credibility's built back up, because I've been kind of steady state for several weeks or months, then the other person has reason to believe I mean what I say and I'm going to follow through with it. Mm-hmm. But if I'm on that roller coaster and I'm bouncing up and down, and 1 minute I'm back in the negative pattern with them, and the next minute I'm saying, I just did a wonderful worksheet and now I feel great, and then 2 hours later I get triggered by something from somebody outside the relationship and I'm dumping on my partner again, I don't have any credibility.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't have credibility, then the other person doesn't have a solid base with which to judge how much I really mean what I'm saying. So I'm often counseling people to do their work, to watch the credibility, to specifically work to increase their credibility with their partner, and then their partner has reason to believe they mean what they say when they lay down an ultimatum and say, I just can't live like this unless this or this changes. I'll have to go my separate way and let you go yours. And that can be done with love and respect, but not if I'm being triggered. And sometimes I need to remove myself from the interaction because I'm getting triggered so much it's counterproductive.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to, arrange several days where I can be alone working and working on myself and doing worksheets
and I do a lot of that time on my own, and it's not necessarily supported, or it might be in the moment, but then in the heat of the argument it becomes, well, you're just selfish. You just go off and do your own thing, and you're retracting into this weird world. And that's when I'm doing my work.
Okay. And my offering in that situation would be, okay, I'm sorry you feel it's weird, but I think it's helping me, and I think it's helping me treat you more lovingly and with more respect.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good input.
And if I get triggered and I'm angry or I feel attacked or insulted when someone calls it weird work or isolating, then I need to do more worksheets on that. I need to do worksheets on anything that gets me triggered.
Right.
And, of course, when we say worksheets, we're talking about the Reality Management Worksheet, but we can also be talking about a mind shifter. We can also be talking about the 3 earliest memories of conflict. We can talk about the codependence to interdependence worksheet, where you make a list of everybody who's ever offended you. Have you been through that one?
Yes. Yeah, that's an amazing tool.
Yeah, you might want to revisit that. And, of course, your significant other in this situation is another person who's offending you. And what's your advice to him?
And take it myself.
Well, yeah, and then work out how you're going to apply that in your own life. And
right.
And notice what the punishment thought is, and work out how that helps you identify how you've stepped into your power person dynamic. So if you've done the codependence to interdependence workshop, you've talked about the power person.
Yes.
And so this hopelessness and helplessness, which of your power people had that as their mode of operating when the stress was down, or the stress was up and the chips were down?
Yeah, I think my mom was my power person. I actually had a conversation with her recently to ask, because I had a very nice childhood. My parents are still married, very loving, supportive family. So I've been doing a lot of digging, I guess, and trying to figure out what is the root of all this. And I asked her, did you feel sad or depressed, or like maybe when I was born, did I help you feel better in your mind? And maybe that's where I picked up this need to try to help others, rescue others. So we had that conversation a bit, but I definitely think she was one more that retracted, and that's what I do. I'd rather run. That would be what I do when the stress is up and the chips are down.
Okay, so there's something to work on.
Yep.
And, of course, it's a balance. And please hear that nobody can tell you how long to stay or when to leave, but you are responsible for making sure that you're not staying in an abusive situation.
Right.
And you're also responsible for making sure that you're not accusing somebody else of abusing you just so you run out and don't do your own work. And that's a tricky balance sometimes. Because even if I leave an abusive situation, I've got a lot of my own work to do. Now I've left, so I'm safe, and it's easier, and maybe I'm one of those people who's okay being alone, and my life seems to quiet down, but all that's happened is that the triggers have been removed. I haven't removed the cause of my upset.
Or in the thought that I've had, the cause of whatever is in me or vibrating that brought this into my world, into my life.
Yeah, it's a choice. There's a very powerful mechanism in the way Dr. Ryce draws out the dynamic for the power person dynamic and the codependent to interdependent relationship. My history, the strongest resonant frequency in my mind that I'm not aware of, is going to drive my behavior. And it's going to, as he talks about, Marcel Vogel created the instrumentation in the lab with which to take a picture of the high frequency wave that leaves the mind when we think a thought. So if deep in my unconscious I'm thinking I need to find somebody to take care of so that I can feel whole as a person, guess who's going to show up?
Right.
That thought is an energy in motion, and it creates a wave, and the wave carries information, and it carries it out into the world away from me, and the person who fits the perfect description of the person who needs to show up in my life so that my pain, my sadness, my fear, which, by the way, is eating me up from the inside out, it doesn't belong in my energy system, so it can get stimulated so I can be made aware, hey, look, Tim, you're carrying around a lot of pain and hurt and anger, and it doesn't belong in you. It's killing you. So that's work to do whether I stay in a relationship or leave a relationship.
Right, and I have that understanding that I have to do the work or I would just attract the exact same situation over again.
Yeah, so I hope this is helpful, but it's without knowing any kind of the details. I'm sorry Michael can't be on to give you more direct feedback, but you worked with both Michael and David in the intensive?
Yes, David, we spoke several times, and I've talked to Michael several times as well. So, but I very much appreciate your feedback and input too greatly.
Well, you're welcome. Anything else we can help you with?
No, I think that's it. I just appreciate the show and the work so much, and I really enjoy hearing you speak. It's very inspiring how much you offer this work weekly with your support group and just how much you stick to it. So thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. And as I said last week, the reason I stick to it is because if I didn't, I wouldn't stick to it. If I didn't set up these situations for myself where I've made the commitment to show up, I probably wouldn't do the worksheets and I wouldn't do the mind shifters, and I'd be back in my old mess.
Right.
So thank you for calling in. Thank you for the work you're doing. Keep it up and let us know how it goes.
Absolutely. I would like to offer one other piece of information to anyone out there. I read a book this weekend that it was one of those perfect timing books because this weekend was pretty stressful with some situations. And it's a book by a woman called Anita Moorjani, Moorjani, and it's called Dying to Be Me. It's a recent release, and it's about her near-death experience and healing from cancer. She was in end stage with organ failure, shut down, went into a coma, had a near... Excuse me?
Beth, could you say the title again?
Sure. Dying to Be Me.
M-E?
Yeah, M-E.
Okay, Dying to Be Me.
Yes. It reminded me a lot of, I know Dr. Ryce speaks of Jill Bolte Taylor's interview.
Right.
And the stroke she experienced in her near-death, or as he calls near-life experience. And this book marched right along with that experience that she had, and it's just beautifully written and an amazing account of who and what we all really are. And she confirms that in this experience that she knows now that we are love. That's what we're made of. And it just echoed Michael's message over and over and over again. Very affirming from someone who had this near-life, near-death, however you want to say it, experience. And it was perfect for me to read this weekend. So if anyone is looking for a life-changing book, I would highly recommend that.
Good, thank you. By Anita Moorjani, Moorjani.
Yes, Moorjani. Yep. And she, when she came back from the experience, she had the option to come back. Her tumors healed within weeks, and she was out of the hospital within 5 weeks after having been in multi-organ failure, shut down.
Wonderful.
So
and
pretty amazing.
You're mentioning this book puts me in mind of another good resource for you. I don't know if you've been exposed to it or not, but I think it would be very helpful for you to use the gentle art of blessing with your significant other.
It's funny you say that because you mentioned that on the radio show last week, and something about it really resonated with me, and I looked it up immediately, and I have it listed here on my phone as the next book to get. So
yeah,
you just reaffirmed that.
I think that so often when we're in a situation and our partner is triggering things in us and getting triggered by us, we're so quick to fall into the old conditioning. And a tool like this, the gentle art of blessing, and practicing mentally holding a loving image of that other person and seeing them as that true essence of love. And Pierre does a fabulous job of, he has a whole bunch of examples in the back of the book where he's constructed blessings. And the process is to simply see the person and see them exhibiting all of the wonderful skills and emotions and patience and traits that they are not currently exhibiting. And just because they're not currently exhibiting them doesn't mean they're not there.
Right.
So that might be a help for you in your interactions with your significant other, and I thank you so much for sharing, and I'll look into that book, Dying to Be Me, by Anita Moorjani.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again so much for everything, and happy Memorial Day to you and everyone.
Well, same to you, and thank you for being on. We have about a minute left, and I just want to invite anybody who has any interest whatsoever to check it out at www.whyagain.com, and the worksheets are available. All of Michael's worksheets are available there for free. You can read the entire book for free. He'd love it if you would buy a copy if you have the funds for that. There are videos you can purchase and watch, and we're here to try and help support people create the best year yet of their eternal life, and we support you in doing that. Please come back to the show tomorrow and bring a friend.
Thank you for listening to Mind Shifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeannie, who present that internal Aramaic